Hello, everyone, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 139, What Sex Trafficking Taught Me About Men, where we're going to be looking at a video from someone named Seizure Girl, entitled What I Learned About Men, Love, and Loneliness While Being Sex Trafficked. Apparently, Seizure Girl is a victim of sex trafficking.
Was it sex trafficking?
No. I didn't go. I looked at her channel really quick, and it looks like I guess she has experience with being used as a prostitute. I don't know if this was a choice that she made or if she was forced to do it or coerced into it. I don't know. She does appear to be very remorseful about that part of her life, and she has recently come out very strongly against the
Sex
porn,
industry?
the sex industry, the porn industry, and how she basically says it damages men, women, it's criminal, and all this other stuff.
Well,
So
she does men too, so there you
she
go.
does include men, yeah. And a lot of her stuff is relatively sympathetic to men.
Okay.
So I
Well, we
guess like
shouldn't
we're
go
gonna be
in
looking
guns
at that.
blazing.
What?
We shouldn't go in guns blazing, is what you're saying.
No, I mean I watched the whole thing while I was doing other things, and I think that it's a relatively sympathetic position. A bit it kind of a normie position though, so I would say like sympathetic, but also a bit of a lot of the stuff that she said with regards to what she thinks about it is stuff that is not really novel.
Sympathetic. Or novel. Okay.
No, it's not. It's sympathetic, but it's not. I'm not like, whoa, what a revelation. It's just like, oh yeah, sure, you would say that. And I'm not upset about that. I don't think that there was anything really condemning, but we could find out. Was this a request by someone?
Yes, it was a request, so we have to thank Karan Strong, who has now
Okay.
made 2 requests, and this is the one that I guess he settled on. But yeah, this was a request for us to respond to, and I guess it's good to just get a feeler on, the gestalt, not just what we directly oppose, but maybe more in the shallower end of
Yeah.
the pool, and find out what
Yeah.
more normie leaning individuals think. So yeah, so hopefully we'll get some insight from this. I just want to point out that the headline itself, whether or not the content is inflammatory, the headline itself is the same kind of logic as saying something like, what I learned about women from my stepmom who sexually abused me, or what I learned from lesbians from my mothers who kept me and my brother in a cage. Like, this is with any other group, we would not accept this logic, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I get it. Oh.
Yeah. But let's
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like this is just her perspective, and I think that it was just not like I don't know the greatest title, because
no.
she kind of babbles quite a bit. So it's like she has like a framework of things she wants to say, and then she gets emotional and then loses track and then has to like find her way back.
So basically
So
it's like listening to a woman.
yeah, it's like listening to a woman. That's exactly what it is. All right, well anyway, let's give this a listen. I'll start from the beginning. Um so let's give this a listen. And oh yeah, do I have this turn? Yeah, I do.
I really want to make this clear before I do this video. I have judged myself harder than anybody else. Any of you people in the comment section that might say whatever can judge me. I have been my most harsh critic. There's nothing that anybody can say that I haven't said to myself. There's nothing that anybody could say that I haven't thought, even when it comes to just the most brutal things. In reality, we are our own worst enemy sometimes and our own worst judger. And this is a video I really feel like I need to do.
All right, I'm just pausing for the banana. It's like setting everything up. And again, I don't know what it's like to be through whatever she went through. And I don't know the extent of it because like sex trafficking sounds really like serious, but I have seen that term used very loosely to describe like, you know, oh, somebody convinced me to start an OnlyFans account. I was sex trafficked. So I don't know if do you guys know what I'm saying? Like I don't know that when she could it could be like what people think of is that, you know, she got thrown into like a trailer car and like was put on a boat and shipped to some other country to like meet up with like I don't know, like Russian mafia, and then she was like separated from her family for months. And I don't know for sure if that's like the definition of sex trafficking that we're looking at. But based on what I've seen in the video, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and at least say, well, it's probably to some degree traumatic, which is why she's opening up by saying, look, you know, I've been hard on myself about this before she gets into this dialogue. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Allison, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You're fidgeting.
Yeah, I'm fidgeting because my cat has decided that I should not have use of my microphone. Apologies, guys. So I have to go through my wires. And incidentally, while we're no longer talking about the topic, I'd like to remind everyone that you can go to feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and a message with that tip. It's the very best way to send us a message and a tip. And if you would like to support the show, go to feedthebadger.com/support. You can give me some treats that I can throw out as like a distraction whenever she comes towards my computer. But anyway, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip, and feedthebadger.com/support to support the show. Hey, did you hear that? That just got a lot better, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yep, that's because I fixed my microphone while I was shilling our various websites.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be temporary at best before the
creature returns.
Comes in, yeah, to like do more damage. All right.
Okay, let's
because
go.
a lot of people who have been in this industry or who have been trafficked, which I was trafficked when I was just about to turn 19. So a lot of people want to talk about the trauma side of it, and I totally respect that, but I want to talk about what I learned from men. I learned a lot, and actually I learned a lot.
Can I just you know what else is trafficking? So for example, a man in the US, and he actually ended up being charged, convicted, and I think ended up serving time for trafficking. He actually assisted, I think it was 2 women because they wanted a ride across state borders.
I remember that.
To get to I don't know, their home or whatever. And he thought he was helping them out. Turns out they were prostitutes. And by giving them a ride,
he was engaged in trafficking. Hence, like what I said, the liberal use of the term.
Yeah, the word sex trafficking sounds really scary, but the actual actions it encompasses are often banal and innocuous. If you accidentally give a ride to a prostitute who happens to be a hitchhiker, you could be a sex trafficker, right? This is how it works, and I believe it's a strict liability crime. So whether or not you know she's a prostitute doesn't matter. You know, your sister decides to open an OnlyFans with a little extra service, and then you give her a ride over into the States or whatever. You are a sex trafficker, even though if she didn't tell you, right? You know, and so that's when people say, "Oh, sex trafficking," remind yourself that just like grape, it has grown to encompass a lot of things that most people wouldn't consider grape, like ghosting someone after flirty text conversations. Most people would consider that to be, you know, not nice, but within the realm of behavior that is somewhat acceptable. But apparently now it is grape worthy of completely revoking a person's participation in their career and community. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
And not all bad. I just want to make that clear. My perspective.
That is a reference to men. She's saying it's not all bad, right? Because you would imagine, and I gotta establish some context here. If she was, if it's true that she was sex trafficked or used as a prostitute or whatever it is, then she probably ran into like a certain type of man. So there was like, if there's negative experiences, it might be because of the circles she was in. So I think that she's trying to be careful about and I'm kind of gonna take her side on some of this stuff because I think that she's trying to work through something, like having bad experiences with men and then coming out saying this is like obviously not all men. I think that's like there are women who literally might have one bad breakup with a guy and they will just say that all of men are trash now. And this person who probably experienced maybe some of the worst behavior in men is still like being gracious to some degree, right? So I think that's kind of amazing, like honestly. But okay, anyway, I'm let's give her the benefit of the doubt for now.
Is very different than I think some other people's. I am not saying that. I want to make this clear real quick that almost every single one of those men had no clue that I was being trafficked, that there was a pimp or somebody helping to, like, there was somebody else behind the scene. They had no clue.
What? What was the pimp helping to? Did you, having listened to this?
I think like the facilitator. No, I don't think she goes into it too much in this video, but she has a channel, and I kind of like. I didn't get a chance to watch much more. I just saw one where it was most recent. It's called Exposing, and I thought maybe she was gonna share something, because it was the most recent one. But it was just her, and I haven't finished that one yet. It's basically just her talking about the porn industry and how it exploits men and women.
Well, just
and
because
so
when you bring up the term pimp, it's sort of like this word that instantly means female victimization. But how many prostitutes and pimps actually work in almost a criminal enterprise where they extort their clients or engage in violence?
Sure.
Yeah. And it's like, so I think it needs a bit more clarification. You say she might clarify on other videos, but
yeah, I mean, she might, I don't know, but like but what she's trying to do here, I think, is say that the men who she, I guess slept with, did not know that she was being trafficked. So she is at least making it known to some degree that the men that paid for her services were under the impression that she was not being trafficked, or maybe that she was acting independently and did not have a pimp or whatever. But she is trying to say that, I think. So
okay.
All right.
Some of the things that were being posted, it was actually a guy putting all that stuff on there. They had no clue. So I just want to make that clear before I do this. This is not a normal video that I have seen. So I thought it's something that I've really been trying to like grasp at for a really long time. For many years, I've been out of this for 7 years and got out 7 years ago. So I just want to start by just putting that out there. I feel very nervous. My heart is racing. My heart is pounding right now. And I feel nervous talking about this, and I hope that people understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to judge anybody here. I'm just trying to express my perception. So there's a quote that
All right, I'm just pausing it there for a minute. She also is like she's a fan of Jordan Peterson. This just gives you an idea of where she's headed. So
well, in that case, clean your room.
Yeah, right. I know. You got to clean out the filter of your air conditioner over there, and well, I don't know. I mean, and yeah, replace those blinds. What's this? What's this over here? What's that? What's that?
Did you expect you to get no criticism when you did this video?
Did I expect what?
No, did she expect that?
Did she? Oh, I don't know. And again, I think she's kind of new to this, but
yeah.
Okay.
and it's life will break you. Nobody can protect you from that. And living alone won't either. For solitude will also break you with its yearning. But you have to love. You have to feel. It is the reason you are on the earth, on this earth. So I didn't choose to be trafficked. And for a long time, I thought the only thing I take from that experience was going to be pain. But over time, I realized that I learned more than just the trauma part of it. I learned about people. I learned a lot about men and women and myself. How we all search for connection, even when
Well,
we don't
just
know
just a
how.
sec. You learned about people who are part of that community.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's applicability to the greater world, but just be careful with that. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all
No,
right.
that's what I said. I mean, that world that she was in. But I think even then, that's what's interesting is the stuff she's gonna say. Because even in that, it's like think of it, it's like a filter, right? You have like all the men, let's just go with men for this, for the sake
Mm.
of this. You have all the men on earth, and then you have all the men in the area where you're working, and then you have the men, which is a subcategory within a subcategory, of the men that would be willing or desired to pay for your services. So, like most men probably wouldn't. I mean, not even because,
Mhm.
like, even men who are struggling with relationships or struggling with women, I think most of those men wouldn't pay for, like sexual gratification with prostitution, right?
Mm.
Even those men would probably just go to, Cornhub or something. Um, so you're looking at a small percentage within a smaller percentage. And I think
Yeah.
I don't know if she knows that. I think she does, but maybe, we'll see. I'm
You
gonna
know, just to speak to that, like I
yeah.
received a video because this particular video has been sort of making the works, or this particular story, the 70,000 men who are part of some grape
Mhm.
fantasy site. And first of all, how many of those men who are part of this site were active users? In other words, they actively engaged in the site. How many of them were engaging in any kind of crime? Right? So presumably some convictions will result from that if they were. And so even if we take the worst case scenario, and this is the analysis, and it goes to your point eventually. Even if we take the worst case scenario and all 70,000 of those men were active and they were actively abusing women in their lives, that is, let me try to remember the decimal points. I think point
Yeah, it's
0.0001% of the male population. It's not even the whole male population of the earth. The male population that speaks English and likely has
mhm.
access to the internet.
Mhm.
In New York, there would be 100 men. In the entire New York City, there would be 100 men on that site. The likelihood that any woman would ever interact with one of those men is minimal. And that's worst case scenario. So it's like, it's just, I think it speaks to what you're talking about is you got to
Yeah.
think about these things in terms of the greater world. How
Yeah.
many of the men that you interact with represent the average man? Probably, like, I mean, maybe if you're in middle America, quite a few of them. But if you are a sex trafficked prostitute, probably not many. All right, let's
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
I don't excuse what happened to me, but I can't pretend I didn't see the men who paid to see me now, who paid to see me. Not just for what they did, but for who they were. Some were broken, some were grieving, some just wanted somebody to lay next to feel human again. And for reasons I'm still figuring out, I've wanted to understand them. I want to understand everything. I'm the type of person that questions everything. Why do people do this? Why, I'm very fascinated by people and including my own decisions, but especially others.
So she acknowledges that she doesn't really give, whether it's most or whatever, but she acknowledges that there is a significant number of men that just wanted female company.
Mhm.
And
I
it
wasn't
wasn't even
surprised.
anything like, sadistic or masochistic or anything like that. And I mean, I'm not surprised by that, but
No.
that is a, I would say that sounds like a very fair thing for her to say, because even if she hated what she was doing, and I mean, like, I would guess that maybe at the time she didn't have a problem with it, because I think that it's sort of like the woman who did 100 dudes in a day. They have like a moment of regret, and then they just kind of push through it because they just convince themselves this is okay or this is normal. And I think that she probably did that. But I will say this: I sent her a message on her. She doesn't have any social media links that I could see, so I just put a comment on her video, and I said I'd like to do an interview with you if you want. So I would talk to her.
Mm.
But we'll see. I don't know, because she's got 21,000 subs, so not massive. But
But she might also not want to talk to some deplorables.
that's true. But I mean, I think I did it under my account so if she looks at my account, she's gonna see video games. But but she might look, because I mentioned our channel, so she might look at that. I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, I think we should. That's why I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, because I don't. Most women don't say that. You know,
no, they don't.
Even prostitute women, they generally have a very low opinion of men, despite
okay. So I guess
willing
this
to take their money from them.
was a very this is going to end up being more of a positive stream, shall we say?
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, no, I don't think there's much to argue with. Again, do you see how she says, "Oh, I'm the type of person that always asks questions," and this is what I mean by normie takes. That's a lot of people are like, "I'm just curious by nature," and it's like, yeah, well, we all are.
Yeah, that's called
not
being a human being.
Yeah, that's this human nature. You're not special.
You're
And look,
that's one of the basic starting stats for humans.
yeah, right. And I'm not poo-pooing any of that. I'm just saying that it is kind of normal stuff. So anyway,
I remember there was one guy whose wife passed away, and he didn't even want sex from me. He really just wanted somebody to watch a movie with, to lay with, to talk, or to be in silence, while he remembered what it felt like to be close to someone.
See? I mean, she didn't have to bring that anecdote up. She's obviously wrote some stuff down. So she thought, I want to mention this. I think that what she's trying to do is she's trying to change the way we see, like, I don't know, like it's almost like she wants to change the perception of male sexuality in a way, because this is why. So she wants to kill the porn industry and prostitution, like the sex trade or the sex trafficking, right? So so in a video she makes about the porn industry, she says that there's a lot of sex trafficking that happens involving the porn industry, and I'm inclined to believe that that's likely true. Not all of it, but probably a lot of it. She also talks about OnlyFans being like a thing that exploits the men that use it as well as the women. So she's staunchly anti, pornography or whatever. And I think her reasons for it is that it is driving men and women further apart, and she wants to like repair the relationships between people. So I'm taking that into account as part of the context for what she is arguing for. I don't know if it's right or wrong, although I do think, like, if she's criticizing OnlyFans, that's interesting, because I believe OnlyFans is owned by a woman. So like I believe that it's run by a woman, yeah. So that means that she is willing to criticize women as well, including herself.
Well,
yeah,
that's good, because we're starting to find out that they're the majority of genuine sex traffickers.
Yeah.
At least in certain countries, that it's women who are engaging in the kidnapping and movement of other women for use as prostitutes.
Yeah.
And there are certain countries where that's the majority. And the only reason why we can't say it's probably the majority of all sex traffickers is because we don't have the stats from all countries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of exploitation of women's sexuality that women engage in as well. And genuine exploitation, not just giving
for sure.
you don't know as a prostitute a ride across state lines. Okay, let's
All right.
I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, it's fine. Let's go back to this.
It reminded me of the movie Her, where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with an AI, not because he's desperate, but because he's lonely. Because even though the connection isn't real, it feels real enough. That's the part I think most people don't understand, is that for some men, this wasn't just like about lust. It was about escaping the silence and trying to find somebody that can maybe give you comfort, and trying to find the warmth in places that left them colder than before. And that's not something that normally we can find with society nowadays by just going out, sometimes.
Yeah, because women are cunts.
Well,
I mean, I
Lisa,
don't know. Like, I'm sure she's not dating any women, but there was I sent you a thing. There was a video I watched. I've been watching Alexander Grace more because even though he was kind of this PUA guy, he's starting to really like dig deep into like the
wake up.
He's getting like red pilled in a way, yeah. And he's been watching these videos, those man on the street videos. There's one, I should have looked for it. We could have looked at it really quick, but there's one man on the street video where this guy is asking the question of men and women, young Zoomer men and women, if they like what do they think about their exes, okay? And the majority of men, unless all the men in that video, and of course, they could be edited to send a certain message. I understand that's entirely possible, but I'm just going with what was said there. The men were all like, well, I hope she's okay, and I hope that she finds somebody, and I hope, they basically have like general optimism that the women that they used to date have like, found themselves a good man or are otherwise happy, and that they wish them well. But the women all like cursed their exes and wanted them to like suffer and die and all kinds of stuff. Now, there's, I think that is probably not shocking to most of you guys. But I think that there's another thing too, and Home Math has talked about this. I think that when women are, especially when they're around other women, they'll dog on their exes. Just like when women who are married get together with other women, they'll like dog on their husbands. I'm not saying they don't believe that, but I think that they're more likely to badmouth them. And men, I think that they have more of a sense of like honor, and they're like, well, I'm not, like even if I am bitter or angry about the breakup or whatever, I'm not gonna like take a shit on her on like the internet for everybody to see. So I'm just gonna say, hey man, because like, I mean, men can't really get away with that. Like so I think women can.
Well, men can't get away with that because they're policed by other men.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But
Yeah,
the thing
they
is that
generally are
every
policed
time
by
we
other
say
men.
men can't get away with something, it's generally because other men police them.
Yes.
Like you're not going to get necessarily a positive response in your friend group by saying, "Yeah, my ex is a witch." I mean, maybe now because of just the family court shit, and there's a lot of that going around. But generally, guys don't get a lot of social credit for complaining about their female partners, and if they do, it's usually something really egregious, or the family courts are involved. But you also sent a
there was a study
that actually confirms. I mean, the man on the street or the woman on the street interviews are sort of anecdotal, but there's a study that confirmed.
I'll put it on the screen here.
Yeah, sure. That men tend to speak more favorably of their exes than women do, and in fact, women blame their exes more. Of course, this group of scientists presented a whole bunch of potential explanations for why women rag on their exes, women blame their exes for the failures of their relationships, and men don't. And of course, the big one is because men are actually to blame, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's psychology today at the end of the day. So they're gonna find a way, like, well, they must have all been like narcissists, gaslighters, and abusers. That's clearly what it must be. So
Yeah, because it's definitely the normal people and not the narcissists who have trouble maintaining relationships. Like that's the funny thing. Like a lot of people with mental health issues and personality disorders have trouble maintaining relationships and end them for frivolous reasons because
Mhm.
they just want to often brinksmanship games and then the person has just had it, but whatever. So I mean, the fact that men view their partners more favorably and likely wish well for them into a negative about men. And I mean, we probably should go through this on another day because it's quite
Yeah.
off topic, but it's a good topic. It's a really good topic.
I'll come back to this.
Could you send me that video as well?
The man on the street video. I'll try to
Yeah.
find it. I can get the Alexander
We
Grace
appreciate
video where
that.
he reacts to it, but I'll
Yeah,
have to
that was like
find
the original.
the man
'cause
on.
I'd like to react to
Yeah,
it too.
I'd rather find the original too, but I don't know how to look for it.
Although it might
If
be
I knew
interesting
the
to do a meta reaction of Alex Grace's reaction to the man on or the woman on the street because it's a layer of interpretation because he is a pickup artist waking up himself, right? To the nature of what men are seeing in the world. And dealing with like the okay. Go back. I'll scritch you over there. Give you scritches. All right. I think we've achieved some kind of equilibrium.
All right, I'm gonna play more of this video.
No.
Let me look at
that wire.
Oh
Here,
my god.
yeah, go over here. All right. Yes, we're good. Let's watch more of the video.
All right. There's only out there. Okay, so she goes into AI a little later. I don't think that's relevant. Again, that's sort of like she rambles. But we're gonna go until about 8 minutes. So there's 3 more minutes of this, and I think that's like we can go into the we'll see how that goes. So here we go.
Times you can, but I don't know. People are different. I'm not here to judge, but I'm not really here to judge. Not every man I met was like that though. Some were addicts, not to substances or alcohol, but to the chase, the high of the transaction. I wasn't a person to them. I was just part of a loop. It felt like Shame, the movie where Michael Fassbender's character can't stop seeking out sex, even when it leaves him feeling emptier each time. That kind of addiction.
So when she says addict, she means sex addicts, right? Okay. Coon-brained people.
Well,
of course, women are
that.
also coon-brained. They can be coon-brained as well, but she probably didn't have a lot of female callers, let's say.
Can I just point something out interesting? She's talking about two extremes, the extreme of wanting to be able to be vulnerable without judgment, and then the extreme of wanting not to have to regard your partner's needs and simply use them as a means to your own end. And it's interesting that it's these two extremes because it really speaks to what men are expected to be in their relationships. They are expected not to be vulnerable, and they are expected to put their partner's sort of needs before their own, sexually.
Yeah.
Because they are responsible, and you can't get away from. No, dude, don't. Okay, all right, dude, don't dump things off my desk. Don't touch that. Oh God. All right. Okay, just give me a second.
Hit play.
This is
I'm gonna hit
massive
play.
cat difficulties.
Yeah.
All right, it doesn't care about faces. It only cares about the cycle. I saw it, men who thought that they were in control, but they were drowning in it, coming back again and again, hoping it would fill something inside of them that just kept growing. They became addicted to that lifestyle. It's weird, but it happens. Then there were the ones who didn't belong there. Attractive, charming, the kind of man that you would think could pick up any girl in a bar. The one that you were just like, why are you here? Why are you paying me? And the craziest thing is one guy I'll never forget, I asked him and he just said that he's tired of the games. He was tired of going out and taking women out on dates and spending $200 on food and drinks and just to be ghosted, or to find out that the girl had a boyfriend, or to find out, there's all these games involved. He just got sick and tired of it. He became he became bitter for sure. And
So let's look at what she is, just these categories, right? Allison,
Mm.
you mentioned the extremes. Then she also mentioned these men who she said were genuinely attractive, and she was wondering what they were doing there. I think that suggests that the majority of her customers were not attractive men, or not conventionally attractive. So it wasn't just that maybe they were addicted, which I could see, or that they were looking for, someone to just like spend time with them, but that they were also the kind of men that probably would not have been successful on the dating market, and they're just like paying for companionship. And then you get a man who looks like he would do really well, and even he is buying her services. And she's like, "Why?" And he's like, "I'm tired of the games." So this seems to be a thing that she's I mean, she may not know it, or maybe she's again kind of a normie trying to be fair, like, "Well, I'm sure that, that this is not a woman problem." I mean, she doesn't really ever say that. But I think that when you look at that, she's essentially got run the gamut of dudes, the different types, and they're all coming to people like her for something. I think that it should put, you know, the problem into focus. so so I don't know. Um do you, Allison, are you there? Do you want to say anything? And you're
Yeah,
mute.
just
Okay.
just so you know, like if I'm not here, although I can hear you,
No.
generally
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might be a little bit too far from the keyboard to actually respond quickly. So just continuing to, or just continue with the video.
All right.
But
All right.
yeah, I did want to extend what I was talking about before I had the massive technicalities.
Catastrophe.
The catastrophe. Um just she's dealing with the extremes. So now we have multiple extremes, and this is valuable because it sort of gives us a negative picture of what men aren't getting from their relationships with women.
Yes.
They aren't getting this kind of straightforwardness, and I'm pretty sure those attractive, charming men are engaging in these courtship behaviors and the potential of having a relationship. And of course, they've become foodie calls, which is astounding to me because I thought, like incels like to talk about how chads are being locked out, but now what a chad is has become like 1% of the population, basically, because not only do they have to be physically attractive, they also have to have that attractive personality style, which is, let's face it, it's the sociopathic personality style.
Yep.
Another study, I don't know if you have it at the ready, but women are attracted to a sociopathic personality style. So in order to be to be in that top percentage of attractive men, physically attractive, and also have a sociopathic personality style. And naturally, that's probably only going to be a few percentage of men. And these guys, they may be charming, they may be attractive, but they may not have that kind of personality style that really allows them to function very well in the modern dating landscape.
Mhm.
Because and like I said, they're putting this money in, they're not getting the companionship they want. Then she's also talking about men wanting to be emotionally vulnerable and not having that opportunity. And she's talking about the guys who just want their own pleasure or want to pursue her in terms of sexual addiction. And all of that really speaks to what men don't get in modern relationships, is what I'm saying. So I
Yeah,
think that's really fascinating.
it
It's
is. I mean,
it is
she said she's been out of it for a while now, but I
7 years.
imagine, I think yeah, 7 years, and I think she says that she doesn't think it's gotten better.
Mhm.
So, I believe it's either in this video or the other one I was watching. But anyway, let's keep going. Nobody sent any super. Let me check Discord real quick for super
Yeah, guys,
shout.
send in those super chows.
I
Feedthebadger.com/just the tip
I
for
forgot
that.
to bring that up in case somebody was gonna put something through. So
Oh, and
I
I should also thank the Great Indoors. He put through a pledge of $500 and then an additional $250 for your trouble, Brian. So thank you, Great Indoors. Completely unrelated to the topic of this show. So thank you for that. Are you going to give him a sound bite?
Oh, we got the. Okay, hold up. Yeah, I think I can do that.
Pretty significant.
Yeah, let's do that.
No, thank you, Turkish. I'm sweet enough.
Context? Do you need that? You should see the movie Snatch. It's really funny. Okay. So let's play some more of her video.
Sure.
And he was just like, I'd rather just pay for what I want at that point. Like, I would just pay, and I could see like that he became better. It felt like What Is Love? And the film, men stop trying to connect because they feel used, tired of rejection, and instead of risking real intimacy again, they pay for something simple, even if it's hollow. But the most unsettling part was the men who didn't want people at all. I've seen it now, men choosing AI girlfriends, virtual companions, because they don't disappoint. They're programmed to love you back. It reminds me of Blade Runner 2049. The main character has an AI girlfriend. She says everything he needs to hear. She's perfect, but she's not real, and that's the problem. That's where we're heading. Real intimacy it's too risky.
But that begs the question: is women loving men a fiction in the first place? Like, honestly, this is the big problem that I've seen in the dating sphere and the romantic sphere now. The biggest message that I hear from women to men is that it is not possible for men to be loved. And that's from all the TikToks, that's from all the big female dating strategy gurus who say, get your bag, secure your bag and get his bag. It's like, and the reason why men are doing this, and I think this woman sort of maybe on the brink of figuring it out, the reason why men do this is because they want to feel loved. Whether or not that's what should happen, it's sort of what is happening, and women have given men the strong impression that love is not on the table. Right? It's not even that men aren't getting sex because they don't it's that they're not getting the relationships they want. They're not getting the emotional intimacy they want. And women are giving the impression that it's just not there. I think that what happened is women think that they really bought into the rhetoric that men just want something physical. And ironically, the character, the AI girlfriend character, can't offer anything physical.
No.
She's purely emotional and intellectual and maybe visual, and that's it. She can't offer anything physical. She just offers the perception of this kind of emotional intimacy, this perception that the character is Kay is lovable, is could be loved, even if it's a fiction. But then again, if men are going after a fictional portrayal of being loved, is it because the real thing just is too much trouble, or is it because they no longer think there is a real thing, that love is fictional? So they might as well go after the fiction, and that is entirely on the shoulders of women.
What's interesting is that she brings up Blade Runner 2049, and I don't know if this is like I'm just adding pointless detail to this, but there might be something to it. The AI girlfriend is holographic. Her name is Joy, and the person who uses her, who owns her, who's with her, he is also artificial. So she is actually so he is a replicant, which is an artificial, like, one, I guess you could say, step of artificiality away from humanity. And then Joy is another step away from that. So, and that's like probably one of the most intimate relationships in the movie. So it's weird because it's, it couldn't be physical. So it has to be everything else. But I wonder if she's going to bring up this Joy character as her example, why not go and look at Kay, because he's also not real. and yet he desires to be real. It's almost like, you know, to bring up Patrick Bateman, the thing that makes him compelling is that Patrick Bateman from American Psycho is a man trying to find like how to live and how to exist, and he wants to fit in and be normal, but he can't, right? um and I think that that is what a lot of modern men are struggling with, is they're trying to figure out where they fit in. How do they, you know, how can they be normal? What am I pursuing, right? What am I doing here? Especially because one of the things that I'm trying to do is attract someone, because that's what we're driven by. And so I don't know, I just think that it's interesting that she gives this example, like in Her. Oh man, what a depressing film that was. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's something, again, when you bring up Hollywood, you have to ask yourself if they're not pushing you towards this stuff anyway, because you know, I don't think that it has to be that way, but women are influenced by that stuff a lot.
Well, okay, let's keep going then.
All right.
Something artificial and call it love. And it works until you realize you're even lonelier than before, because people have a hard time now being transparent, because we've all been hurt, right?
What was that? You talking to the
But
cat?
again, we're back to this question of, do women give men the impression that that love is on the table? And I would say that it's well before TikTok or the female dating strategy people. It was the moment we all, for whatever reason, decided to believe that men oppress women.
Yeah.
That is the moment it all got tainted. I mean, there may have been a reason to do that in order to maintain men's guilt, to keep their loyalty to the system and all of that other crap. But the moment we embraced that, the clock started ticking for us and our civilization. And unless we challenge it and get rid of it and everything that's based on it, and figure out the solution, whatever problem it was solving in the moment, you know, because people embrace these kind of very destructive momentary solutions to their problems until we figure out that a good solution to the problem it supposedly got rid of. No, you can't put your face on those wires there, kitty. Until we do that, the clock is ticking, and apparently it's ticking on the human race.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
all right, let's keep going.
We've all been hurt. Some men don't want intimacy, they want control. I wasn't a person to some of them. I was something to conquer. It felt like Ex Machina, where men build AI women not to love them, but to own them, to manipulate, to discard them when they stop playing along. This is the part that really terrifies me, though, is it's not just...
So Ex Machina was a movie by a guy who hates men, and it does not reflect the way men are. It's literally a caricature. It's pretty awful, actually. If you've never seen Ex Machina, I mean, it's well shot. It looks nice. They have good actors in it, but when you look at the plot, nah, it makes no sense. It's awful. It's an anti-male movie, because they have to like turn men into caricatures. So I think that, again, she seems to make a lot of references to stuff, and I don't think that's a good example of men at all. But
trafficking anymore. It's not just men paying for women. We've stepped into something darker. For me, what I learned about men was there's a different variety of men, but honestly, most of them were lonely, were bitter, had a hard time finding something meaningful, and or I think they became addicted to the whole cycle. That was the majority of it. The ones who were grieving or whatever, that was different. There were men. This is the part that I feel.
I'm just pausing it there.
Okay.
Yeah, go
All
ahead.
right. You don't conquer, like, conquering is still a human interaction with another human. I mean, I guess you could conquer an animal, but animals have satience too, right? In order to conquer someone's will, there has to be a recognition of the will of others. So this is not objectification. It may be aggressive, it may be dominating, it may be exploitive, but it's not objectification. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't quite say that, but there is like a implication a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, if these guys are bitter, you should be asking yourself, where does that come from? Like,
Okay.
well, how has it gotten to the point where they're approaching prostitutes to spend time with? Like, where does that come from? That's a good question to ask.
Feel like the most embarrassed about and ashamed, and I don't think I have forgiven myself. Eventually, when I would find out that men were married, it was horrible, and I felt horrible. I would try to talk to them about it and ask them questions, like questions I shouldn't even be asking, to try to like figure out how could I help their marriage and what could I give any advice. And I remember asking this doctor, and I was like, where does your wife think you are right now? And he said, oh, on lunch break. And even just saying that now, I remember.
Well, maybe she wasn't putting out. Maybe she was abusive. I mean, I don't know if you asked those questions, but we
Yeah,
don't
you're
really
not getting very. I mean,
yeah,
like
we don't know
cheating
what
is
the
cheating.
situation is.
It's still very unethical, but on the other
Sure,
hand,
yeah,
men
I'm not
can't get
excusing
away
that.
from. Men can't get away from, like we don't have no fault with divorce. We have men at fault divorce. So all of the stuff that we used to have to prevent divorce still applies to men. So effectively, men don't have divorce. So, like I can have sympathy for that simply because it's, men don't have divorce the way that their obligations to their wives never cease.
Yeah.
Like there's no divorce there for men. But like it's still cheating. It's still much better to deal with your relationship. But yeah, those are good questions to ask. Did she ask them? Is she abusive? Is she
I don't
withholding?
think she went into it too much, but
It's interesting though that she felt the latitude to be able to ask these questions, these personal questions.
yeah. Or maybe like if you realize that as a prostitute you were an accomplice to adultery, maybe it was really that you just felt guilt about being a part of that rather than it just being an ethical or even moral, wrong that you wanted to correct. Or maybe it would have been like good to just hear him out. I mean, it could be that they're just womanizers, but it also could be that there's like problems at home and they're not getting their needs met for whatever reason, or there's something darker going on. And it might be a good idea to learn that too, because if a man like this doctor, if he's having problems at home, he may even want a divorce, but if he starts one, um, he probably stands to lose a lot more than his wife does. So it's sort of like safer to just stay with her and try to like get your rocks off. Or maybe it
Yeah.
wasn't even sexual. Maybe it was just, maybe he just feels like it's really cold in the home. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, she's not giving us a lot of info, so
Yeah, all we know is that the
That
guy's
day,
cheating.
the pit of my stomach, I was a part of the problem. The people behind me were a part of the problem. And I feel so sorry. I feel so bad for those women. I feel so much guilt and pain. And honestly,
Yeah.
I don't understand those men. I'm just
The other thing is that how do you know she wasn't cheating on him?
yeah, well, we don't know.
We
Exactly.
don't know. I mean, the thing is that yes, you've got a slice of this relationship, but there's a lot missing.
Mhm.
I have heard, at least from a researcher into the field, that the majority reason why men cheat is emotional, just like women. It might be physical, but usually the withdrawal of physical intimacy has an emotional component to it. So yeah, sure, you might have been involved in cheating on women, but consider that women don't really have to pay to get sex. So the male counterpart, we aren't hearing his story, right?
Yeah.
Because he's not considered to be a victim. He doesn't get paid like she did. You see what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah.
The gigolo does not get paid. He has to pay for his own expenses, and thus he's not as much of a victim of this kind of sexual exploitation as she is. All right, let's keep
Yeah.
going.
All right.
Gonna be honest. I don't really understand that. If it's not working and you have to go and betray somebody and go behind their back and pay somebody and you don't know, you might as well leave the relationship, the marriage.
You know
The
situation for divorce for men. Like you do know, like we throughout most of history, divorce was difficult, especially in Christian countries, and there were legal reasons that made it difficult. All of those legal reasons that made divorce difficult to procure exist for men. It's like asking yourself why women in the 19th century didn't just divorce him, because they often couldn't. And the situation for women in the 19th century was probably better than men in the 20th, like the 20th, 21st. So, I mean, if you're asking yourself, like, why didn't you go get a divorce? Consider the obstacles for men in doing so. And then let us return to the conversation. There's a sort of a double-edged sword with this. When certain red pill guys bring up the fact that women who have lots of sexual partners are more likely to get divorced, yeah, that's true. But men who have lots of sexual partners may not get divorced because divorce isn't really that available to men, even when they're so they will do things like this doctor did. They'll cheat, other things like that, because divorce is not as available to them. So it's not really that much of a statement to say that promiscuous men don't get divorced, because men don't generally have the ability to get divorced. They're more forced into the situation. So if he has discontent because he of a promiscuous past, then it's probably going to come out in a different way. All right, I just wanted to point that out. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
But again, that's not for me to force people. That was one of the worst. I would say the other worst thing was,
I mean, because the thing is that people
being
will talk about the sex industry and say this isn't consent because her livelihood relies on it. How will she be able to pay her bills? How will she be able to find a place to live because she won't have the income? So it's coerced through the loss of income, but they won't take it a step further and realize that marriage for men, by exactly the same logic, is coerced because of potential loss of income. Like, do you see that?
Yeah.
So is marriage sex trafficking for men? I mean, sex trafficking of men. Sorry, not
the
for
sex trafficking of men.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just throwing. I'm not going to stand by that.
I get it. I get it. Okay.
Trafficked to drugs dealers. Yeah.
Drugs dealers? You mean drug dealers, right?
Yeah, generally not very good people.
Drugs dealers. No, of course.
Yeah.
Well, what about the drug dealers?
I hear it from guys I know.
I think she's just saying that some of the people she's trafficked to were drug dealers, so criminals. But like I said in the beginning, if you were working in prostitution, or if you were sex trafficked, or even if you worked in porn, the porn industry, you're probably going to be around a certain kind of person, male or female, right? You're going to be around a certain caliber of human being that is, they're morally different, to put it that way, to put it lightly, and that's going to color your experience, and you're going to, and I mean, I think that she gets that, but she can be a little dramatic. I mean, it's still a woman at the end of the day, so.
Can I just point something out? So
Yeah.
far, she's expressed sympathy for women who were cheated on by these men, but not the fact that she's essentially exploiting men. Let's be honest.
Sure.
She's exploiting men's loneliness and desperation. I mean, maybe not all of them. Just some wanted to conquer something, which pretty much puts them on the same footing as her, to be the moral footing as her.
I mean, you're paying to conquer. It's like,
yeah,
it's like going, it's like, yeah, there's no challenge there. It's like going to, what is it, Westworld, where you pay for the Wild West experience and you get to beat the bad guy and always win, but you pay for it. I mean, did you conquer, or did you just go enjoy a game? Yeah. So
yeah, I just enjoyed some BDSM with the prostitute.
Yeah.
But that kind of like a man going to have an experience of conquering the will of another human being and paying for it is a much more equivalent exchange morally, in my opinion, with this woman than a man going to her and basically having an open emotional wound that she pretends to give a salve to for a bit. Like, that is exploiting men for their emotional needs. Right. And has she contended with that? She's talked about, I feel bad that I indirectly hurt these men's wives, some of these men's wives, by allowing them to cheat on them. But that's an emotional thing. That's like you are allowing a man to create negative emotion in his wife. But on the other hand, you are giving the facsimile of care to men who, if they weren't so desperate for it, probably wouldn't pay for it. Right?
Yeah.
Which is exploitation. Like, I've just went through a whole article on how a woman who paid for her friends, he was a male friend's in a roommate's rent for years, was being emotionally exploited because he belittled her, or he used her insecurities to make her continue to give him money. Well, how is that different than a prostitute using a man's insecurities or emotional pain to get money?
Yeah.
Like, that's in an intimate way, like in an intimate way. I'm just pointing that out there. So does she have any moral and ethical responsibility to that?
I don't think she says anything. She just kind of, I don't know. She beats herself up a bit, I guess. But
does she beat herself up about that?
No, I don't think so. But
and the other thing is that it might be considered like I'm attacking her. But if she hasn't correctly identified the source of her own guilt, she's never going to resolve it. Guilt and shame. So maybe she should just think about that.
Well, I did say she's got normie takes. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah.
Pepito gives us $10 super chow and says she sees the men, but in her eyes, herself, the other women remain the only victim. She never seems to challenge that narrative. That's the reason why men are paying for her services in the first place. Yeah, normie. It's a normie take. It's just like not challenging the root of what is, where she's like the blinders are still on. You know what I mean? She's trying to be sympathetic, but the blinders are still on when it comes to women.
And my point is that if she doesn't recognize that the source of her guilt, that may be a source of her guilt. Mm-hmm. Like, I think fundamentally people still, we have such a strong sense of mirror neurons that I think we recognize when we harm others. Maybe not sociopaths, but normal people with a normal amount of empathy. If she doesn't recognize that source of guilt, she's never going to overcome it. It's going to be a constant. She's going to beat herself up as much as she exploited those men. And that will be her life. So good luck to her. Or she can move past the normie takes and recognize that there's another aspect of this of harm that was going on here that she might want to take responsibility for. But let's continue.
All right, I got a super chat from Derek Workman for $5. And he says, if their wives gave them emotional support in the first place, would they pay for a prostitute to get emotional support?
Well,
Probably wouldn't have to. What?
now I can't say for sure like that if that's what's going on. There are men who are like highly driven like through adrenal like adrenaline and that kind of thing who would just be interested in sex just because they're interested
No,
in the sex.
but he's saying if would they pay for a prostitute to get emotional support? So he's specifically talking about the men looking for emotional support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no.
All right.
Like no, they wouldn't.
No, probably not. Exactly.
I hear this from friends, from guys I used to date, or my partner now that we are together. How OnlyFans is safer than dating. How AI girlfriends never reject you. I've watched men lose themselves to corn because it feels easier than facing real people. And women, we're doing the same thing.
Well, at least she said that.
Are just as bad. I mean, we're ghosting for sport, using men for attention we don't even care about. But now it's not just us hurting each other, it's machines. AI girlfriends are already here. I've seen the ads. She listens to you. She won't cheat on you. And people think it's funny and they laugh. But I don't think it is. Because the truth is, humans are parasites to each other. We drain each other, we use each other, we traumatize each other. But here's the part that stings. Who builds the AI girlfriends? Who creates the corn?
Well, so okay, so she's
Well, women are creating OnlyFans.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's I mean, she's trying to say, you know, like, oh, humans are making these things, and so we're doing this to ourselves. But again, like, she's not quite where I think like where she should be at. Like, okay, so if men are concerned about women, you know, manipulating them, belittling them, abusing them, cheating on them, using them for attention, using them for intersexual competition, whatever, exploiting them in some way. And then they're like, well, look, I just want something simple. I'm going to go to an AI girlfriend. Then yeah, the question should be like, where is this coming from? And what she's doing is, and this is why I said this is a normie take, is she's saying this is all of our faults. It's all sides, instead of, well, wait a minute, you know, like where should we focus? Because I think like if you do we should probably study this. And I think that there's some data out there. We should be looking at who is the one that's really creating the tension. Where does the distrust of men come from? Where does the distrust of women come from? Like, what, you know, is it valid? Like instead of just saying, let's all like stop being mean to each other and stop like abusing each other. Let's just be like nice to each other.
Yeah,
please.
well,
That's a normie take. That's what I'm saying. It's like, why don't we just stop? If we all were nice to each other, then we'd live in paradise. Yeah, that's not going to happen because that's not enough. You know?
Well, it's really simple because I get those normie takes a lot. I get the centrist takes.
Yeah.
What I say to them on Twitter, the tweets, the exit or whatever you want to call it, is, do you believe that men oppress women? And most of them say yes. They'll say something like, well, why do we have to blame?
She probably does, or something. Yeah, she probably does.
Well, maybe she might have challenged that, but it takes a lot to challenge that. It takes a lot to challenge not just that, but this idea that your actions should solely be determined by their effect on women, which is something that she's doing right here, which she's demonstrating right here. She says that it's not all bad, my impressions of men, that some of the men came to me with emotional wounds that I would pretend to help them with. But it was really just, as she says, it was just fake and hollow. So she knows that she's offering them not just a placebo but snake oil. And yet she did it because she got
Yeah.
money out of it. Right? And she
Yeah,
doesn't
sure.
see that and say, "Hey, I was actually exploiting those men." I don't know if she's gone that step further to recognize that men themselves we should take a understanding of ourselves morally as women from our behavior to men, right? That this is the radical notion. I say that, but this appears to be the absolute radical notion. This is the Rubicon. I don't know. It's just this thing that women can't cross, is this idea, and just sit with it, that we as women should understand ourselves through our actions towards men and their consequences on men. And maybe she's at the edge. She thinks she's being kind or fair because she's saying, well, I didn't think that men were all bad as a result of my sex trafficking experience.
Yeah.
But she hasn't gotten that one step. She hasn't stepped over that line and said, shit, I was an exploiter.
Mm-hmm.
I was exploitative towards men. And it's because it's stepping into that space where, as a woman, you say, how do my actions affect men? And how does that inform my understanding of myself? You notice how women really struggle with that?
Oh, yeah.
They really struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of it is, and I think the draw for that whole men oppress women is that it completely negates and allows women to avoid, how do my actions affect men, and what does that say about me as a woman? Like, they don't have to even think about that. Like, that entire part of their existence just disappears in a puff. And I'm not saying this to her as I'm not singling her out, because she's far from rare in that. But there is some additional work to be done here. And she might find if she does that work, maybe she'll feel a little less guilt and feel a little less inclined to beat herself up, because she'll know what she did wrong, right? And what she's perceiving about herself, and maybe she's not recognizing. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's more than just saying men aren't that bad. It's also saying, hey, maybe I was the monster too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. I get that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I got a $5 super chow from Great Indoors. And he says, one thing that I want to add is that the Q&A section of that Puta Life video, the writer of the book admitted that a significant part of her students were doing sex work to help them through college. So there's a good chance that men are spilling their hearts out at trained feminists who will use their personal data and twist it to a more anti-male propaganda. Yeah, I believe it.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of women that have OnlyFans in colleges, because that Puta Life thing was like, I think that was like Latin America, because it was a lot of it was in Spanish. It was in the South America specifically, but that's why it's called Puta Life, because puta just means prostitute or whore in Spanish. And yeah, I mean, like, you get women to use their bodies to make money because you make them feel like it's the only thing that they're worth because of patriarchy. And the sex positive feminist, which is what that was, a pro sex work feminist video, then you can convince women to go into sex work. And again, OnlyFans is owned by a woman, and a feminist at that, I'm fairly certain. So, you know, but yeah, thank you for the super chow. I'm sure that happens.
Okay.
Feels trafficking. It's not robots, it's humans. So when humans are trying to say, hey, don't worry, this robot isn't going to hurt you, who's the creator of it? A human. We create the very thing that destroys us.
It's kind of a weird segue. I could jump ahead to the last thing if you want.
Well, what is the conclusion here? That because
She's just basically saying that humans hurt each other, and the fact that they're making robots doesn't change the fact that they're made by humans. So
yeah, but the thing is that, first of all, it's women hurting men, right?
yeah, I mean, they're making robots to fill a niche in a market.
Yeah,
And
and
and the reason, why does the market exist in the first place?
I mean, all that men do in our society hasn't even earned them a sense of gratitude, much less the impression that they could be loved for it. So love is a fiction. Like I can't deny the overwhelming voice of women on the internet. And now women on the internet is becoming the way that men understand women's voice. Right? We can talk about, fiction or whatever, but women on speaking on the internet is going right to the source. And it's overwhelming the amount of women who who buy into, first of all, men oppress women, but also give the strong impression that men cannot be loved. Not just that men aren't loved or that they can't earn love, but that it's just not going to happen. That's the strong impression I get from people like Manifestel, Shira, the other women that we, from the female dating strategy, we respond to a lot of this feminist informed TikTok crap. That's the strong impression I get from it. So you can say, well, it's a fiction. Love among an AI girlfriend is a fiction. Well, wasn't it also a fiction with you? And if an AI girlfriend is exploitative because it's a fiction, then again, you were exploitative because yours was a fiction. You were a prostitute. But regardless, at this point, is love by women, of women for men, a fiction? Is it real or is it a fiction? Because it's being presented as a fiction by women. And I think men are picking up on that. So if it's a fiction, it doesn't matter if they get it from a fictional source. Does it? Like, really? I honestly think that one of the main things that Christianity did was make it so that love between men and women could be seen as something spiritual and transcendent. And also that that maintain that kind of attraction, because that the presenting male masculinity as a moral good in and of itself is something not necessarily better, but something different,
Mm-hmm.
And that created that spark of attraction on that level, and that's gone for the most part from secular society, and nothing has replaced it. So where is the love? The love appears to be a fiction, regardless of whether or not you buy it from a prostitute, you get it from an AI, or you pretend you have it with your wife. I mean, this sounds really freaking depressing, but why are women continuing to put this out into this noosphere if it isn't the truth, or it isn't what they want men to perceive, that men are unlovable?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't put that out. I try to put out gratitude and appreciation, and the fact that I see how much men have sacrificed to make women's lives comfortable, and all of that. And I wish I could tell women to stop doing this, to stop being so destructive. But if I do, I just get called a pick me, and canceled. So it's like, and people, I mean, in the previous video, somebody said, well, you're so optimistic, or it's good that you still have passion with a relationship between a men. It's not passion. It's recognition that we fix this or we're doomed. It's recognition of where the problem lies. And it's right here. This is where the problem lies. And you can pretend that the problem is, no offense, immigration. Immigration is a problem, but it is not the problem. You can pretend it's like trans rights and LGBTQ. You can pretend it's conservatives being meanie pants and all of this other stuff. But at the end of the day, this is the problem. And the problem is in the relationship between men and women. And if we do not solve it, nature will get rid of the problem by getting rid of us. So I don't know if that's optimistic so much as realistic. I don't know.
Eventually.
Yeah. And I honestly don't think that the Amish or the Mennonites can really take over, because while they're a population that is reproducing, they're also a genetically limited population. you know, and that is not a solution either. We can't have this kind of insular, self-looking community, self-turning communities. That's not the future either. They may end up being in the future until they die out, but it's not the future. We got to solve this shit in the context that we have.
Yep.
I said a lot of words, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, word salad," but take what from that what you will. Okay.
Okay.
We hurt each other. Then we turn around and design something worse to replace the connection that we
Worse?
ruined. And it feels
Well,
Is
because
it really
it's-
worse?
I don't know. I mean, like I think that ideally two human beings would come together. I don't think that we're gonna be able to replace that. So I think it's potentially worse, but like it doesn't have to be. You know, we can fix that. So that's what I think anyway.
Mm.
like a cycle that is never ending. AI girlfriends are just the beginning. What happens when robots replace intimacy altogether? What happens when porn isn't just on screen, but something we can feel, live in, escape to? At some point, we won't need each other at all. And honestly, that really scares me.
Well, yeah,
I
that
don't know
you
if that scares you,
men
but-
won't need women because the only thing they could possibly need from women is love. Like eventually, gestation bots will take care of that, and sex bots will take care of sex. I mean, the only thing that I can think of that women could possibly provide men that in the future won't be better provided by robotics is the conscious act of love.
Mm-hmm.
And if men just want something to gestate their children, that's coming too. You know, that's
Yeah.
and yeah, I guess that is frightening. But why I'm curious, like what women can give men in a world with artificial wombs and sex bots is a consciousness that actually cares how its actions affect men. Did that make sense? And that can't be replicated with robotics. It can't be replicated with AI. I mean, it maybe could be emulated, but the way that consciousness works, I don't think that AI is ever going to create we don't even really understand consciousness, much less being able to manufacture it. We can make AI sort of look like consciousness, but it's something even that I've noticed with AI art. AI art doesn't know what to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so it just everything is focused on. And that is a part of the difference. Like there's just not a conscious point there. So the only thing that I can think that women could possibly give men again is a consciousness that judges itself by how it affects them, which is not something they can get from AI. And wombs are also something they can potentially get from robotics. So I mean that's another thing to throw out there for thought, food for thought. Okay.
All right.
Are
Do
we
you want
done?
to hear more of this, or should I jump ahead to her
Her little
thoughts
lump
on
there?
healing? Okay.
No, no, let's jump ahead to her
like I've
thoughts on
said in the
healing.
past video,
All right, I'll jump ahead. It's like 16 minutes. So.
understand some of you I don't understand, and that's okay. I know some of you don't understand women, and that's okay. But this isn't a competition.
But doesn't
Who's worse
okay, do
than the
you
other?
think
We
you
all
understand men?
Well, she thinks that she's learned a lot about men doing that.
Okay, what can we go
So-
back to the context of her particular little rant here?
Okay. All right. All right.
10 years ago and just wrap that girl up and say you're gonna be okay. Like
She's talking about herself, that she could like go back in time and talk to herself.
got you. I'm gonna get you out of this. You're gonna be okay. For any man that is watching this, some of you I understand, some of you I don't understand, and that's okay. I know some of you don't understand women, and that's okay. But this isn't a competition of who's worse than the other. We have all been screwed over. I've been cheated on. I've been lied to. I've been screwed over
Yeah,
just
but
like
you
many
haven't
men
been
have.
subject to a universal social narrative that you oppress the opposite sex. Right? This is the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So everything within that context is going to be slanted towards women until we step out of it. Right? And it's going to be it's going to be slanted towards a particular perception of women as lacking recognition of their moral agency in relation to men, shall we say. I mean, I
Yeah.
would say that actually greatly diminishes women in a way that is almost impossible to even articulate, much less truly understand the scope of. But regardless, as long as we believe that, we exist within a framework that disadvantages men, that blames men, that puts the onus on men. And until we step out of that framework, we can't talk about, oh, it's both sides. Oh, we each hurt each other. No,
Yeah.
it's, what we can talk about that once we step out of that framework. Sure. We can start talking about healing once we step out of that framework. Okay.
I've been ghosted.
Yeah, but you haven't been
this
called an
isn't a
oppressor.
competition. We have all been hurt. We hurt each other. So how do we heal each other?
Step out of the framework.
I would say what I learned. I went to counseling, tried to work through all that trauma, and I guess sometimes it takes time, but building a relationship with somebody that feels safe and feels close to home, and also taking time to be single, to love myself, and to be my own best friend. It's time.
Have you considered how the effect of your exploitation of men gets into your relationship, the potential problems there? Have you considered that? I mean, this is the problem with the framework. This is the problem.
I mean, I bet that her boyfriend or whatever is doing a lot of the heavy lifting dealing with her baggage, unless he
Yeah.
also has baggage. But
let me explain the framework that we exist in. Regardless, I mean, the main way that we maintain that framework is, again, men oppress women. But the framework that we all exist in is that women don't think about how their actions affect men. Right. And they don't, and if they do think about it, they don't think about it in terms of how to take an identity, like to take part of their identity from how their actions affect men. So maybe they will see that as, oh, bad, but will they see themselves as more or less of a woman based on how they act towards men? See what I'm getting at? That's not it. So that framework, if her healing takes place in that framework, she will always be broken. And she will always, on some level, I think, perceive herself as broken. There'll always be something seeking more. And the problem is that when that happens, and this is what I notice with women in that circumstance, they are inevitably drawn to blaming men. Now, maybe she's beyond that. Who knows? I can't say too much about that. It's just saying what she's presenting here. Like, has she considered how her actions exploited men? Right? Has she considered going forward how she's going to resolve that? Yeah.
She does not bring. I don't think she brings that up.
No, she doesn't bring it up. Maybe she brings it up in another one. Maybe it's something that she's never considered.
I don't think she. This video is from like just last month, so this is relatively recent.
I will believe these stories of prostitutes and sex workers coming to the light when they start talking and taking responsibility for their exploitation of men's sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like they come to Jesus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But isn't that more about confessing your guilt, not being recognized as a victim. So do you truly come to Jesus if you're not confessing your guilt? Like, do you truly, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just conjecturizing based on my impression of prostitutes becoming Christian. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And I'm just pointing this out from a secular perspective. Like, is that really how it works? You know? And because and here's the other thing I want to point out before we go on. I did send you a video of a
Instagram.
yeah, you know what? It's fine. We don't have to go over that. But it's basically the video of the thing I was talking about, the 70,000 men in this kind of a grape thing, which I don't know if it's role play or if they actually engaged in it, but regardless. But we don't have to go into that. What I did want to say is something that I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this, Brian, but I wonder, as the overtly antagonistic narrative gets called out, so like what we're seeing with the USAID stuff and all of the bizarre stuff the US government has been funding, which incidentally part of it is destabilizing other countries around the world by exporting this so just crap.
Yep.
And believe me, people in the countries they don't want this crap either. Like, Nigeria doesn't want trans underwater basket weaving symposiums in their country from being supported by USAID. And furthermore, I think that they also, even the straightforward aid that they get that's supposedly so great, like dumping a whole bunch of shoes on that destroys their local market, which then makes it impossible for local entrepreneurs to make a go of it. And then they have to immigrate to the US to have a place where they can even try. You know what I mean? It's like all this crap that this US shadow government engages in. And that's a bit of a segue, but it does come back to what I wanted to talk about. But as we call all of that overt crap out, and we see it come out, like we start to see it in the government, what the government has been funding, what the CIA has been funding, and has been against too, because they've also attempted to undermine the stuff that we do. As all of that comes out, I think we need to be careful about this message becoming even more subversive. And the one place that I'm starting to see a rise of it is among these presumptively Christian conservative commentators who again absolve women of responsibility by saying, well, men were the ones who were supposed to lead them. So somehow women aren't responsible for themselves morally in Christianity. Men are responsible for them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
So if a woman violates the 10 commandments, that's not her fault. It's a man's fault for not leading her properly. So you get what I'm saying? And I don't think that that's Christian.
No, it's not. It's just more ways that women are trying to avoid responsibility.
But it's not even women who are doing it. Remember Lasta?
Well, yeah, sure. No, there are men who do it too. Yeah, sure. Well, they believe that they believe in this idea that if the men lead, the women will follow. Yes, but I think that is not, that's short-sighted, and it's also very arrogant because it's prideful, because you're basically saying I can do it. Like if I lead, she'll follow. And it's like no, that's wrong. Like she has to choose.
Yeah, well, but the thing is that wouldn't leadership for men right now be holding women to account?
Yeah, that's where it starts, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like that, and starting to say no, you need to start judging yourself by your behavior towards others. And I don't think, like, honestly, from what I know of Christianity and the Bible, and I speak to this as like lay secular, the 10 commandments also apply to women, right?
Of course.
There are expectations of women that women need to stand up to that can't all be deflected onto men as, oh, he should have led her correctly. Right. And that Jesus recognized women as moral agents, right? And they had expectations morally, and that men's leadership, I think, is not that they are supposed to be responsible for women's moral choices, but that they are supposed to model moral choices for women and hold women responsible for their own lapses in morality. But like I said, I think that what the subversion is coming in is we're starting to see these presumptively conservative and Christian advocates who still advocate for an absence of female responsibility. It's just what I'm saying. And I wonder if this is like all of this crap squishing into another form. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay. So a little bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
You are going to be the best friend. No one else will. So if I could give anybody advice, I know how it feels to be screwed over by people that you trusted. And you look at them and you're like, I thought I knew who you were. I never thought you would do something like this to me. I know how that feels. And I've been the villain in this too. So it's all about like healing those inner parts of ourselves that need healing and nurturing ourselves.
Well, at least she had said that she was a bad guy too. Yes, but it is very much like a very, I don't know,
normie
female, very feminine normie take. Yes. I guess in a way, the feminine and the blue-pilled, or the blue-pilled and the normie is kind of feminine, like the whole thing. And maybe that's what I mean to say. I don't know. But yeah.
Oh, Gabriel Phelan Lucas is saying stream's gone without mentioning Christianity. I mentioned it in the context of potential people who are our problem, right? I'm not saying all Christians are a problem, but there's been this raft of a particular type of conservative commentator that I consider a problem. And I consider it a problem because once again, they're essentially using Christianity to absolve women of responsibility for their actions. Then not everything has become Christianity, but Christianity is a big part of the social landscape. And I'm just saying that I think a lot of the people who started by subverting our social landscape with all this LGBTQ stuff are just becoming more circumspect and are now starting to subvert it using things that appear on the surface to be less radical, is what I'm saying. And I don't see a way forward without women taking responsibility for some of this shit, or for a good portion of this shit. I just don't. So if somebody's going to go around and continue to sell the idea that, oh, men just need to take more responsibility, bro. In fact, the real problem with the world is that men haven't taken enough responsibility. Well, as if men stopped at any point in time. And I see that, and they're selling that. They're selling continued destruction. Continued social destruction. All right.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
And the funny thing is, when I look throughout history, when we have pulled ourselves out of social messes, it's generally because women have taken some kind of responsibility for their greater cultural group. So that's, I don't know how many women need to do that, but it from what I've seen in history, it generally falls to women to just. And I don't mean that as like, oh, men are failing. It's more like there's just some things socially that men aren't able to do. And when society gets to the point that it needs women to take responsibility, then they must do so. Now we are a global civilization. So. Whew, okay. All right. I'm good. Are we finished?
Yeah.
I shouldn't use the F word. I used the F word.
Well, I guess we are now. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, there's nothing else. She just says love thyself, which by the way is not a great idea, but you should care about yourself for sure. But yeah. Okay. So I did try to reach out to Seizure Girl here. We'll see. I think that she's just starting to like go on this journey, and we'll see
Yeah,
where it
I mean,
goes. So
at least she's willing to admit some culpability here.
yeah.
I'm using my force field to keep the cat back. But yeah, she heard the word.
I got a $5 super chat from Zeranx, and he says, "There's a pastor Vanderclay I followed for a bit who remarked on a video that Israelites appeared to be feminine in behavior around the golden calf." Thank you for that. That's a lot to unpack there, but I do know about Paul. Is it Paul Vanderclay? Because there's a guy named Paul Vanderclay that I'm not subscribed to his channel, but Lindsay is. But I've seen like a couple of his videos. He actually talked to the base camp people a while back before they blew up. But
Oh,
anyway,
was that the base camp couple
yeah, the couple that we had on, yeah,
that we predicted that they would blow up huge?
yeah, they did. That's true.
Of course. I wonder
And
what it is, like that we bring people
Yeah.
on, they get like a million subscribers, but we just
Yeah.
sit here. Is it just the fact that it's like the alphabet?
I think it's
ABC
just
on our
like
app?
where, we just sort of like see it when people are heading in a certain trajectory, and then we talk to them, and then they just sort of keep going. We're like, at the fork in the road, like, hey, which way, Western person, and then they like go in whatever. Speaking of people that blew up after they talked to us, Sargon is going to be at a con. I sent you the link to it. I'm not saying we should go, but I want to make a point because I think this is
Oh, it's the natalist, the pronatalism.
a pro-natalist convention in let's say it's in Austin, Texas, March of this year, and there, Carl's gonna be there. Like, we got a bunch of different, I
Is
don't
he
know
speaking?
a lot of these people. There's Malcolm and Simone Collins of the base camp people. Yeah, Carl's speaking there. I don't know a lot of these people really, but I do know some of them. I'm just showing this off. If you're in the Texas area and you're interested, maybe check it out. But yeah, and say hello to Carl, because there he is right there. He's going to be there. I think Raw Egg Nationalist is somebody I know from the internet, but that's basically it.
Well, I could try, because I could go to try to go to the States, and they'll ask me, what are you going for? And I'll be like, a convention, and they'll be like, another 5-year ban.
I don't think they do that, Allison. But I'm not saying that we should go. What I am saying though is, when Carl talked about going to this thing, he said that the new challenge in the coming years is going to be getting men and women together to start families. And what I'm saying is that we're not the only ones that are trying to like talk about this, and that means that there are people looking into solutions, and that means that those people will inevitably have to confront like the woman question. They're going to have to, and it's the only way. So I say go for it. If you guys are interested, check it out. It's in Austin, Texas in March. But then for people who are not doing that, all I will say is that you're going to have to confront this reality at some point. Like, it's just inevitable. You can't even, like, we finally got it down to the point where now there's just two sexes. Okay, so now what? Now we have to address that. So, and let's do that. Let's see where it goes. See if people figure this out. So,
the other thing is that when we just declared, it was just the federal government. I'm sure that the act.
I know. It's just, it's just a federal thing. I'm joking mostly.
The reason we have to ask yourselves, why are people engaging in this behavior? Like, people are pretty conservative. They don't really engage in behavior unless there's some kind of benefit to them. And I honestly think that it's because we have embraced a narrative that makes it supremely uncomfortable to be men and women, and even worse, to be in relationships with each other. And until we address that narrative, we're going to be stuck with this crap. And I mean, it's funny. We do see these people on a trajectory, and then we bring them on and they blow up. And that I also see a trajectory that our society is on, and we need to fix it. So maybe we have foresight. We have the gift of foresight.
Maybe. I don't know.
Right. Okay, so if you enjoy this content, please consider supporting us at feedthebadger.com/support. And if you have a comment on anything that we've talked about during the show and you want us to address it at the next reasonable time, please give us a tip and a comment at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And I'm going to try to get this done before we have any catastrophes. So I'll hand it back to you.
Cataclysms.
Any cataclysms. Oh. I can't think of another word. She's too distracting. All right.
Malmageddon.
Malmageddon. Malmageddon in more than one way, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Take it away, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. You'll find a link to the video in the description of this one. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. One thing you could do to help me out is go to that video, leave her a comment asking her to come on our show. I want to talk to her. And I want to like dig a little deeper and maybe get her to think about some things because I think she's on like she's reaching that fork in the road, all right? That's what I think. But anyway, so yeah, please consider doing that and helping us out. That would be like the best thing you could do. And yeah, share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.